I'm a First Nation person. I'm born and raised on an Indian reserve, as it's known still, and that I've lived my whole life on an Indian reserve, and I've worked for the First Nation, the Mississaugas of the Credit, as a community economic development person for almost 15 years. Was a duty consultant accommodate person for 4, and work on various projects within the First Nation. Currently now the Moccasin Identifier. So I've been as a almost like a First Nation planner and laying out the comprehensive community plan for our First Nation. I've been involved with different conflicts. And I too have a label for what happens in the conflict and what the outside community, the non-Native communities around us do. They do set us aside, and that they don't have to, prior to the new Supreme Court rules and legislations, and now the new provincial policy statement 2020, that they are required, basically required by law, to talk to us as our First Nations governments. And so because they see that the Indian reserves, which are federal lands, they have no jurisdiction over, well, they'll do things adjacent to our boundaries that impact us. And that's, and I'm talking just, that's just the reserve lands, those boundaries, but our First Nations have treaty land, which has its own set of boundaries. And we have what they call traditional territory that was not clearly defined under a treaty in many cases. I don't say all the cases. Ours is pretty close, as if we look at the Mississaugas of the Credit one. But definitely things have happened between, and we're adjacent to the Six Nations Reserve, so things has happened with development plans by the non-Native community, and that whole colonial mindset is that we can just do what we need to do according to the rules, be it the province, that we're set out to, we're legislated to be able to do. And that's roads, it's all of the utilities, services, infrastructure, plans for how they're going to use their land, and that can be right adjacent to and impact a First Nation that has a reserve status. In our case, it's a landfill site for one, and that between the municipality and the province, that they were going to set up they set up a landfill site, and it impacted our community directly. They said that it is adjacent, it is downwind with the prevailing westerly wind, and it's downstream surface and aquifer, and that is just the distance between the landfill site and our First Nation resident homes was the width of the road, very close. And what we found in our response to them wanting to expand it, that there's no rules around that. And so we've ongoingly challenged that kind of activity, and that rules for their community and their members, citizens, is different than what it is for the First Nations and an Indian reserve. So it's actually, it's very totally opposite. For us, for us it's 90 feet. For them, it's 500. So, and then it's the federal, for them, they just look at it, well, we have no control over what's over there. And they went forward to do things, like improve the landfill site over a number of years. And we protested it, and that we now have a settlement, a mediated settlement between the municipality and the First Nation. And ultimately now, due to other technical issues, the landfill site has now moved but we still have it across the road from us, and it's monitored on a regular basis. And the First Nation now has a relationship with them to help monitor that, to make sure all the future stuff with it, you know, like runoff and methane that gets produced in there are looked after. The groundwater's tested on at least an annual basis. And so for us, our people we ended up getting a water line on that boundary road, just for our people to make sure that they had good water. So there's been some positive things that have come out of that conflict. But those kinds of things happen. For the Six Nations, some well-known past histories where they wanted to put a dam in on the Grand River many years ago, and they did not agree to that, and they protested and stopped it. So, see, the municipality wants to do something for their own purposes, not thinking about, you know, the treaty rights that come with treaty rights and, you know, original ownership, because the Grand River runs right through the Six Nations land.